This podcast is a proud representative of The Wellness Company. Go to twc.health/alternate take for all your wellness needs and type in the promo code alternate take, one word, for 10% off. You guys, in today's world, health has never been more important. In fact, it's one of the coolest subjects we've been able to touch on here at Alternate Take, and we've gotten some amazing guests to have discussions with, including Dr. Peter McCullough, who you all know as probably the most famous doctor in the world ever since his episodes on Joe Rogan. He is the chief scientific officer of the Wellness Company, and nothing goes through this whole company without his knowledge. If it's certified by Dr. Peter McCullough, it's certified by us. The Wellness Company is unequivocally and unapologetically standing up for medical freedom and the right to affordable health care. This company has always put the patient first. If you go on their website at twc.health, you'll see all natural products and everything that's going to make you a better human being. Guys, let's get healthy before we even get to the hospital, before we get serious problems. This is the place you got to go. Go to the website, twc.health/alternate take, promo code alternate take, one word, for 10% off, and thank us later. Get healthy, guys. Your family's dependent on you. What's up, everybody? This is Alternate Take, man. We brought you the tremendous John Wood of Syndicate MMA. How you doing, sir?
Good, brother. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course, man. You have been catching everyone's attention, man, the last couple of years, but it's been way more obvious this past year, obviously, because of how phenomenal Merab's been. But we get to know way more about John Wood, man. I mean, like, everyone wants to know about the fighters. I like to know about the dudes who fucking, gets them to their highest levels, man. So that's always exciting for me to learn about, dude. So tell me a little bit about John Wood, man. Where'd you grow up?
Man, I grew up actually in Vegas. I'm Texas originally, but I've been here since the second grade, so almost 40 years of my life in Las Vegas. I tried to leave a couple times, but it kept pulling me back. So, and it pulled me back for a good reason. So, I'm glad. But Vegas is home. I'm a hometown Vegas kid is what I would claim. So, I love it. And it just so happens that it's the, fight capital of the world. So it all worked out.
Yeah, definitely does, man. How did you get into fighting? Did you fight first, or were you just really involved with, or just obsessed with coaching?
Yeah, no, I fought first, and as a kid, I wanted to be I wanted to be a pro wrestler, I wanted to be like, there wasn't any of this stuff when I was a kid. So it was WWE, so I was like, oh my God, I want to be the next Hulk Hogan. And then I realized I'm not 6'7" and 350 pounds, so that kind of killed that dream. But I remember watching the very first UFC at my buddy's house. I had a friend who, had some money, and he could afford the pay-per-views. So we went over there and I watched the first thing, and I just fell in love with it immediately. After the very first one, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I kind of got hooked on it through the years, and always rent all the videotapes, and was just obsessed with, even the dark years, you couldn't watch it. You just had to wait for the videos to come out. And after the first few, went off pay-per-view. So I just kind of, always stayed in touch with it. And then at about 17 years old, Vegas isn't the best place. When I was growing up, there wasn't much to do here except get in trouble. So I did a lot of that, and ended up, leaving Vegas and moving to Arizona for a little bit. And that's where actually when I started doing MMA out in Arizona, and really, I started bouncing in a club when I was 17 years old. You only had to be 18 out there, and I think I had a fake ID at the time. So I started bouncing when I was 17, and I wanted to, get a little bit better, in the fighting game. So I started, with jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai and MMA gym, a little hole in the wall, and started doing it instantly. Instantly fell in love with it there, and like just became obsessed with it. And then, spent a few years training jiu-jitsu, and then I realized, like, okay, I think I want to do this fighting thing. And so tested out some fighting, and then, got into the whole fight game, and realized that, this is at the time, man, I think, we're still in maybe UFC 40 or 50-ish or something. I don't even, maybe not even that, like we weren't even that, maybe in the 30s or 40s, actually, when I was like, you know what, I think I'm gonna move back to Vegas, because Frank Mir and the Combat Club, and there's a few gyms that were starting to pop up here in Vegas, and I wanted to come home. So I came back and I joined the Las Vegas Combat Club in over here, and that's where, like I said, Frank Mir came out of, and a couple other good guys, and spent some years there, and then just realized early on. I had a car accident and I got a little settlement, and I realized early on that I wanted to be in the sport for my life. Like this was my thing. I didn't care if I was a fighter, didn't care. I kind of realized quickly that I wanted to be a coach, that I wanted a lifelong journey in MMA. So that's kind of what I did. I went to my coach. I asked him if I could invest and we could open up a gym, a small gym, a nice place, because all the gyms were in the ghetto at that time. So, I wanted to start, getting it out to the public, and getting MMA and jiu-jitsu and these things to the public. And so that's what we did. And man, the dominoes just started falling one after another. It was, a lot of, this is my 22nd year with the gym. 22 years I've had this gym. And it's been tough. Every year has been tough. You got to treat it like a business. You have to run it like a business. And I wasn't a very good, businessman at the beginning, but I've learned through the years on that's the number one deal is you got to run things like a professional sport, professional business. And, that's what's really happened over the last few years. But early on, my fighting career kind of got affected by coaching and running a business. Like it took up. You cannot. I'm a firm believer that you cannot do both of those things effectively at the same time. So I kind of had to make I knew I loved coaching. I was coaching a lot of jiu-jitsu tournaments and started coaching the Amis and the fighters. And then, Forrest Griffin was one of my best friends and he was living with me after he got off the Ultimate Fighter. And we were, I was following him around for years and cornering and just got into it. And was just like, man, this is my thing. And, I decided after injury, after injury, after injury for fighting that I was like, I think I'm going to go the coaching route. And little bit I know you get injured more doing that, but so the injuries haven't slowed down. They've actually sped up because now it's not just me; it's 75 other dudes I got to have beating on me every day. But I love it, man, and I made the right decision, and I've said gone all in and never looked back.
I love that, man. I'm always fascinated with a coach's mindset, transitioning from athlete to coach, because some people just they can't make that transition. Athletes all they like to do, and that's all they want to be. And
Yeah,
it's I have a buddy who's one of my best friends. He coaches football at Colorado, and his football career just ended like just in the worst way, just injuries. Like he was a great football player, but no matter what happened, just come a year rehab injury, and you're just like,
yep,
"Dude, it just never worked out." And his transition to coach is like, dude, I love it even fucking more. It's just
yeah.
exciting, you know.
No, it's amazing, and that's a good thing for me is that you see it all the time. A lot of players or a lot of fighters or a lot of whatever sport don't make the best coaches because whatever sport you're in, especially fighting, it's 100% selfish. It's 100% selfish. It's about you. It's always about you. Everything is about you. And then coaching is the exact opposite. It's selfless. It's all about the other person. It's all about what you can give, what you're going to give up, what you're going to sacrifice, the time you're going to sacrifice with your family, the time you're going to do this for other people. So it's a very hard switch. And like, I kind of got lost in the shuffle when the Vegas MMA like blew up. I was always with really great fighters and I got to learn a lot from that, but I didn't get like stuck under one coach to learn one style. I just learned everything and got to see a lot of the what to do's and what not to do's. And that has always kind of helped me be able to adapt and train a multiple, so many different types of fighters, from like I said, I don't train Khalil the same way I train Merab, and it's all different, but being able to, having a shitty fight career kind of helped me in the coaching game. So and then also knowing, what you need, what you want as a fighter, what a fighter really is looking for in a coach or what, to kind of to give those things that I didn't have. It's really cool to be able to do to get back.
Yeah, man, it's really awesome to see a coach and fighter relationship that have not only all the skill involved, but the chemistry's there too. It's fun to
Yeah.
watch as a fan actually. Like it.
You got to have that. You got to have that. If you don't have the chemistry, and there's a lot of gyms and a lot of places that trust me. There's a lot of good coaches that don't get close with their fighters because, hey, it's more of a business aspect. There's a lot of gyms, big gyms out there, mega gyms that are more business, and it's here's what we're doing, and people come in for a camp and they leave. We do a little bit different at Syndicate. We actually have a full on team and a full on culture that we're building and breeding out here. And it's something that was one of the biggest turning points a couple of years ago. of just really working on the culture and the aspect of what I think these guys want and need and what works. And that's, where we really spent like a lot of time, trying to figure that out, and it's working now. So it's in obviously the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, 100%, man. The proof is definitely in the pudding. You talk about you mentioned Khalil and Merab, both of their last fights they had huge improvements. I mean, that was one thing everyone wanted to see with Khalil, like how's his striking going to improve, and it was phenomenal. And then you see Merab and the questions people had like, will you get the finishes and got to finish? Like, dude, like tell me about those last final touches that you guys putting on your fighters to put them over the edge.
Yeah, it really comes down to kind of just knowing your fighter, knowing what they're capable of. I've been saying for the last couple of years that Merab's capable of being a finisher. And everybody laughs at me and calls me, and you don't know your fighter, you're out of touch. I'm like, I think I kind of do. It's just the fighter doesn't know the fighter yet, and there's a fight like where like in every single one of Merab's fights, if you go back and watch since let's say Peter Yan, even before that, every guy, whether they know it consciously or subconsciously, are looking for a way out. They don't want to be there anymore. They don't want to be in that cage anymore. They're like, oh, fuck, this sucks. So there's points you can see it. You can point to it multiple times while you're watching the fight. Well, here we could have finished there. We could have finished there. We could have finished. Merab just wasn't looking for those things yet. That wasn't his mindset. He was taught to be, he embraced the I'm a grinder. I'm going to go 5 rounds hard. I'm not going to quit. But like over time you start to kind of mold and shape and start to see what the capabilities of the fighter are. It's like, listen, dude, like if you just start looking for things, if you just start putting your arm around a neck or going for this, or I said a while ago, I want to turn the fun into finishes. You're having a great time out there. If you're laughing, you're picking people up and throw them around, or you're laughing and kissing their back while you got them in a guillotine, finish that shit. Finish it, and then you can have the funnest time you've ever had in your life and tell all the jokes and have all the kiss whoever you want. But let's get the finishes. And so it just was a over probably a year and a half process of just putting that in his mind and starting to get him to look for it. And Rob's one of those guys that once you teach him something and he's able to apply it in the cage, then it's not going to be, in sparring, it's not going to be very long before he starts to apply it in the fight. It's just getting these guys to believe, and everybody's process is different, and so he was really just preaching that, and then having some of the highest level guys that he has to train with over here in sparring and starting to get submissions on them, starting to finish them, starting to, do that. He was like, oh shit, I think, okay, and so just putting that thought process, planting the seed and letting the seed grow to where a lot of the times, it's their idea. It's the best it could be with a fighter is when it's their idea, their idea. And they come back, hey coach, I thought about this thing and I did this thing. I was like, oh yeah, okay, cool. I've never heard that before. But that's the way it works, you just kind of like I said, you plant the idea and let it grow. And that's what we're going to see with Merab. And I've been saying it from the get-go, is every single person that we fought already for this rematch is we're going to go out there and get a finish. And if we don't get the finish, that's okay. But it's not for lack of trying. Like, that's just one more aspect of Merab's cardio capability, too, is that if someone's sitting there, and in fact, I think it was funny, DC was right on on the broadcast right before he subbed Sean. He's like, there's no submission threat to Merab, from Merab. So, O'Malley should just stand up, and then boom, oh shit. So I made sure and text him after that and said, oh really?
Yeah.
But that's the kind of concept. And now if people have to start to worry about that extra wrinkle in his game, it's just like that much more draining on your energy systems. And then the same thing with Khalil. It's just sharpening up, figuring out what the guy needs. He brought in Christian Knowles, really good striking Muay Thai coach out from England, and just to work on blasting his kicks and getting all that stuff back in play, and then bringing it to the board, and us mixing it all in together. And that honestly, he even stated that was I mean, he didn't spar 3 or 4 weeks before that fight. He tore his knee. It was bad. Like, I didn't know if we were even going to make it to the fight. So for him to go out there and perform the way he did is even a better testament to how good things are working around here, and how good these guys are picking stuff up.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's funny you mentioned the like planning an idea for sometimes an athlete you got to do that. It's always stuck with me just because like, when I was a kid, I remember like I mean my dad was like a hard ass coach, and I'm thank God he was, but He would tell us sometimes like I have to like tell the other coach to tell you something because you're too fucking stubborn to listen.
Oh yeah,
Like
all the time.
if I say it, he's like, you'll just be like, ah. But if someone else says it, you're like, that's smart. All of a
All the time, and it used to bug the shit out of me. But I've learned to get out of my own way and whatever gets them to the cross the finish line and gets it to be successful. That's what I'm good for. I literally have fighters come back and regurgitate the same thing I told them the week before. Hey, I was thinking about this, coach. What do you think? And I'm like, seems very familiar. Or, you see another coach. I've had fighters come up to me and be like, oh my God, Coach so and so just taught me how to jab. How come you never taught me how to jab? Okay. I
yeah. I don't
got
know.
it. Yeah,
Start
good
working
for
on
him.
it.
It's just you got to learn, like I said, how to just the process of everybody. But it's coaching is tricky. It's tricky, and especially when you're working with so many different styles and different athletes. It's crazy, but it's a puzzle, and it's so fun to try to figure out. And obviously when you're going on a run like we have right now and the success we have, it's even funner.
Yeah, definitely. What kind of advice would you give to someone going into your gym who's looking to start their MMA journey, who's new and has nothing to his name, nothing? What would you give them if they want to be a syndicate member and go out there and just start fucking getting better?
Yeah, the biggest thing is what you just said, get better. Get in here and learn. So many people want to just jump right in and say, I want to be a fighter. And this is one of the only sports in the world where you can just walk in the door and be like, hey, I think I want to fight. And somebody will be like, somebody out there, some promoter will give you a fight and you can be a pro fighter in month one if you want to be, and you're not going to be successful, but like, there is no vetting process, so you kind of have to do it yourself. Obviously, anybody, get into a good gym, you come to our gym, spend a year. Don't even think about fucking fighting, nothing like that. Spend a year getting into everything, training as much as you can, putting, every aspect of it. If you really want to fight, have that concept, get into your Muay Thai classes, your boxing, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, learn everything, and take your time. If you're young, take your time and enjoy the process because it flies by. But like, just take time. Everybody's trying to speed up the process and get through it, and there is no shortcut to, like, there's things in MMA that once you hit the groundwork that we can cut off a little bit of the fat and shortcut some techniques and some moves, but just take your time and get good, get a good solid base on the ground, solid base and striking, and have that open mind to learn, and don't rush it. So many guys, want to rush it. And then the other thing, the biggest thing is have a good attitude. That you want to be successful in this sport. You want people to get around you and back you up. Have a good attitude. The willingness to learn, the willingness to be coached is one of the biggest things. But when I see somebody, I'm like, oh shit, this is going to be fun. Or the opposite, oh shit, this is going to suck, like that. Those are, the biggest things. So if you can be coachable and moldable with a crew that you trust, and that's the thing, is you got to make sure that you get in with a gym that has, you know, tried and true results. Not somebody that like held pads for somebody and took some pictures and put their arm around and say, hey, look back in 97, I did this with this person. It's like, bitch, what are you doing now? What have you been doing a lot? Like, what did you do? Who have you built? So make sure you're in a legit setting with people that can actually produce what you want.
Absolutely. I love that, man. I know I have you for a couple more minutes. What were your thoughts on UFC 317?
Man, crazy. I mean, it pretty much went down as expected. Like, I had multiple different interviews, with everybody asking about Ilia and Charles. I just think stylistically that was a terrible matchup for Charles. Charles always gets hit. Always gets hit. Early on, he's known to survive and then put you out of your misery later in the rounds. Ilia has proven, obviously, now on every single level, that dude has dynamite in his hands. So when you get hit by him, you can't survive. It's just no one does. He's knocked out the three toughest, best guys that you could possibly, I mean, like we're talking about Volk, Holloway, and Oliveira now. Like, bro, the guy is just a murderer, So he's tiny, but it doesn't matter. Like, he's going to go up against some big guys, but if he can find your chin, woo, that dude is nasty, just nasty, nasty power, nasty, nasty technique, and yeah, I think he's going to go down as one of the all-time greats, especially doing it the way he's doing it. And, being like, if he goes and runs through 55, being an undersized fighter, like it's going to be insane.
Yeah,
So,
it's
you know,
incredible.
that was awesome. Pantoja's a savage. I don't see anybody touching him. You know, like he's just that good. That dude is, you know, he's the Merab of 125. You know, those guys are. You know, it's kind of cool to finally start to see some like stars be born and some you know some guys that are going to hold on to those belts for a while. You know, we've kind of gone through a drought of people just popping the belts back and forth and doing this and doing that. But I think those three guys right there between Rob, Ilia, and Pantoja, you know, they're hanging on to those belts for quite some time.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, man. That's a great synopsis of that, dude. Thanks for joining the show, man. I know you're
Of
busy and all
course.
that, man, but huge fan of yours, man, and
Thank you.
success to you guys going forward, man. I can't wait to watch another Syndicate fight, man.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course, man. This has been Ultimate Take. We'll see you guys later. Peace.